Hello there. Today we're going to be reading a very special story. It is written by Matthew Josephson, age 8, from Lexington, New York. It is titled The Eyeball Monster. First, a disclaimer on the back of the cover. Warning, dear parents, keep this book away from kids under 6 years old. It contains violence and terrible horror. Horror spelled horror and then corrected to horror. This is a book that you'll want to read over and over again. Well, we'll just see about that. There is a kid named Mark. It is his birthday today, and he is 9 years old. All of his friends, apostrophe S, in upstate New York came to his party. Mark started to open his gifts. Then he opened a gift, and it had an eyeball in it. It wasn't even a real one. Because that's the biggest concern when you receive a gift that's an eyeball, is that it's not real. Nobody knew where it came from. Said Mark, according to the illustration. Nobody in Lexington sent it to Mark. Who or where do you think it came from? Said John. Beats me, said Mike. The eyeball started to grow. A few months later, the eyeball grew into a monster. This apparently wasn't a concern of anybody. Well, maybe it just grew one day. I'm thinking it grew progressively, but what do I know? Dumb 8-year-old Matt Josephson from Lexington apparently was not destined to be an author. And they called him the Eyeball Monster. Yes, they got together and they said, we'll call that thing the Eyeball Monster, not to worry. The monster started to grow horns. 2 pages of this book is dedicated to this point. By the time Mark was 10 and a half, the monster was huge. The illustration on this page is of 2 very tiny people and 1 rather large person next to a giant eye. And in parentheses it says, Mark's father is a basketball player. I guess that's to account for his immense height. Then there was a murder, and the murder was done by question mark. And this illustration is a rather fat person in a nice 3-piece suit holding a knife, and he has horns. Portly fellow. Extra, extra, another murder. And the price tag of the newspaper is hanging off of the newspaper. Apparently, the illustrator decided to draw a very poor depiction of Judge Doom from the Roger Rabbit movies. 25 cents. Get the paper. Extra, extra. Read all about is another murder, said the paperboy. Another murder, but who is the killer? Which is a statement, not a question. Mark had it all figured out. It's the eyeball, said Mark. Mark went to the cops. And here we see him dashing in a very awkward way, almost leaning back as he runs, to the town cops. Mark knows who the murderer is, but the cops don't believe him. Now we're telling the story in present tense. A cop even fell off his chair. Wow, I didn't realize the extent of how much they didn't believe him until the cop fell off of his chair here. Ha ha ha, said another cop. But it's true, said Mark. Yeah, says the police officer here with the rather large legs. Probably should get that checked. Finally a cop spoke, because they weren't speaking before. Like, we are going to put a toy eyeball in jail. And just more laughs came. Then the eyeball monster had his final battle with Mark. Then it turned out the monster was from hell. He was a devil. Yeah, I didn't see that M. Night twist coming, did you? The best place to aim is the middle of Dig Dogger. which is here. This is a very, very illiterate Zelda reference, and I'm not even going to explain it. He got hit in the target. And then he goes back to hell. But before death, an eyeball fell off. This was the perfect way to set up a sequel to this epic tale. Be sure to look for The Eyeball Monster Part 2, Return of the Eyeball Monster. Well, there you have it. Little Matthew Josephson, age 8, Lexington, New York. Be sure to look for more works from this spectacular, young, and talented author, because if there's one person that knows how to tell a story, it's Matt Josephson. Thank you and good night.